WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. And today I have Mr. Boston Rocking Chair American Whiskey Blend from the 1970s. It is kind of amazing what people find down in the basements of their grandparents. And this is what happened over here in Germany. Irvin Red Benjamin, probably Irish, together with Heman Bekowitz, either German and or / Polish, founded in 1933 in Boston, Massachusetts, the old Mr. Boston Distilling Company. 1010 Massachusetts Avenue in Boston, Massachusetts is the building. If you take a look at Wikipedia, you can actually find Mr. Boston Whiskey Distilling or Distilling Company, and today the Public Health Services uses those buildings. And this is an American whiskey. If you take a look at the Whiskey Agency, and that's not right, the Whiskey Exchange, excuse me, from London, from England, they actually have this listed, yet not available. And they say it's an American whiskey, therefore probably refill casks. On top of that, it is a blend, and therefore they used 51% bourbon corn, and then they probably added these spirits. I'm just going to call it vodka. All right, good. Rocking chair. Rocking chair has, first of all, a nice little story. So in the beginning of the 20th century, maybe even at the end of the 19th century, we had captains that kind of came back from sea, and of course then when they retired, they would sit out in front of their nice little porches in Massachusetts, Boston, whale, and I don't know what other type of fishing they did way back then. And these captains actually and others would put underneath a rocking chair a keg, and they would rock back and forth. And this movement actually simulated exactly that same motion that they had on sea, which helped that spirit to age faster. So all of us that are thinking right now is, hey, I remember someone doing that as well. And who was it? Jeffersons at sea. They also did exactly the same thing. They put a container on a container ship, and they put barrels in that container, and they let them swash around the whole time, and they sold it. I actually did a review of batch number 5 from Jefferson's at Sea. I did notice a difference in the taste. It wasn't definitely a better moment for me, but yet it does affect the whiskey. So the second thing before we come to tasting, Mr. Boston. Mr. Boston, for a few of us from the mixology scene, will go, hey, wait a second, that's not bourbon, that's a bartender guide. And you're exactly right. Mr. Boston Bartender Guide from 1935 was actually created by the old Boston Distilling Company. So they were in business from 1933 until 1968. They made gin, they made bourbon, they made rum, they made brandy, and they actually created this wonderful book in 1935 that has been reprinted all the way up until 2016 before Sazerac, who actually bought the name rights for Mr. Boston or Mr. Old Boston, and they turned it into a website. And you can go to this website, Mr. Boston Bartender Guide, and you can find out, I think, 12,000 different drinks you can mix according to the ingredients, according to the taste profile, according to the color, if you want to have a green party and so on. It's very, very interesting. So what happened in 1986? A couple of years before that, of course, people died, the founders and so on, and they sold the company to Glenmore Distilleries. The first time I read Glenmore, I was like, wait, that's Scottish. And it's like, no, Jason, it's from Louisville, Kentucky. And so they actually closed it down. Glenmore Distilleries was bought finally through many different type of mergers and so on, and it then ended up in the hands of Sazerac today, which owns Buffalo Trace. All right, so let's take a look at this. Enough of talking, enough history lessons, but I like those history lessons. I really do like the backstory of these whiskeys, because it's not going to be a great review. This is 40%. This is from 1970s, and this is an American blended whiskey. It's not pure bourbon. And it's not even using first virgin oak that have been charred. It's using refilled barrels, and they're adding actually a neutral grain to this, not vodka, neutral grain, and therefore it's not going to be wow. All right, so let's try. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nope. Oh, yeah, yeah. If I really, really didn't know better, and someone gave this to me, I was like, that's almost like an Irish whiskey. That's almost like a blended Irish whiskey. It does have a little bit of that corn momentum in there. It does have a little bit of this pecan moment more than any normal Irish that I have. I think 80 bottles at the moment or so. 60 bottles of Irish. Um, but yet that taste at the end, oh, those old barrels that have been used again, which I've had many, many times also from the lower category of the Irish whiskey. So, um, now a friend of mine, he actually, as I mentioned, I think, found this in his grandmother's basement. We have a nice little Facebook group over here in Germany, in German, called Whiskey. I'm sorry, Bourbon Lovers Germany. And he just put the picture on there. Says, anyone know anything about this? And everyone went, no. Wait a second. There's actually a Wikipedia page about this. And then he said, is it worth it? Is it worth opening? And everyone was like, no one's going to buy it, really, to be honest. Open it up. And so he did. And I got a nice little sample. Thank you very much. No names here. And what happens is when you put a little bit of water in this opens up. It actually is fairly nice in the nose. Normally I'd give it like a low C, high D, and now it turns almost into a high C, almost B minus on the nose. You do get that pecan moment. You get a little bit of walnut. You get the nice corn and the nice vanilla oak moment. It actually smells fairly nice, but then mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Comes in very, very weak. A little bit of sugar water, and then it develops a little bit of flavor with the oak, with the bourbon, with a little bit of that, as I said before, the pecan and so on. Even a little bit of tobacco leaves are there, just tiny little bit, and then that grain kicks in, and then that old wood kicks in. It just kills everything. So I'm gonna give this actually like a D plus C minus. I'll go for C minus minus. Now the back end story, amazing. I love the rocking chair story. I love the Mr. Boston bartender guide. I love the fact that the building that was used beforehand as a distillery is now the public health department in Massachusetts. Very, very nice. All those things are just fantastic. The bourbon itself, or the American blended whiskey itself, is really not worth it. But that's what happens a lot when you have these basement finds, as we call them over here. Just not worth it, the whiskey that's in there. Price for value, you can't find it. Sorry, it's one of those things, and no one really wants it. That's the way it is. Whiskey Jason here. My question of the day is, talking about the Mr. Boston bartender guide. What is your favorite whiskey slash bourbon slash rye whiskey cocktail? Mm. I have about 800 different I have 800 different whiskeys, if not more, in samples that I still have to try in the next couple of years. So I'm not even going into the cocktail realm yet, but I do know that the old fashioned is fairly good. What's your favorite cocktail made from whiskey slash bourbon slash rye? All right, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, my videos come out. I actually have a backlog right now of, I think, 30 some videos I'm going to have to put out one day. I keep on having rare and exotic videos of whiskeys here. I'm making videos also in English, which is a pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon, and like, subscribe, and tell others. Bye-bye.